When Tyler first struck me, it didn't come as a shock. It didn't even hurt, not physically anyway. I'd been waiting for it, anticipating it every time his jaw clenched or his breathing shifted. A ticking time bomb with a short fuse. At the beginning, it was just muttered insults and disapproving looks. Then came the irritation, impatience you'd expect toward a clueless kid or an untrained dog. His tone turned more venomous with time. The way he spoke to me could cut deeper than a blade. It was worst when he was drunk, which was most nights. Hungover Tyler wasn't nearly as bold. He never apologized. He blamed his temper on work and said I only made things worse. Truth is, he was a pathetic excuse for a man. The first time his fists flew, he didn't hit me. He punched a hole in the drywall because I brought home the wrong brand of beer. That gaping hole stayed there for days, like an open mouth waiting to scream. I knew I was next, and as for that beer, he drank every last drop. Eventually, he made me fix the hole either with my money or my hands. When I called him crazy, a vase sailed past my head. That day, I learned not to talk back, though silence changed nothing. It wasn't long before Tyler's fists moved on from walls and glass. My skin became the target. What offended me the most was that it took him so long to consider me. I was always last, forgotten background noise, just a ghost watching someone else's life unfold. But the worst part? I couldn't leave. You see, I never married Tyler out of love. I did it out of desperation. Something so raw and hungry it nearly swallowed me whole. I was young, broke, and desperate to escape my parents' crumbling house. With 7 kids and no money, they barely noticed when I left. I doubt they even remember me. Tyler, my husband, was a few years older. He dropped out of college and worked as a mechanic. He wasn't bad-looking, not really, but women weren't lining up for him either. His expression always looked pissed off, cold eyes and deep-set frown lines. I'll give him this, though, he could kiss. We met when my dad wrecked his pickup and dragged it into Tyler's garage for repairs he couldn't afford. I saw my way out and didn't look back. Neither of us had better options in our dead-end town, so we settled for each other. We got married right after I finished high school and moved in together. Our wedding was as dull as you'd imagine. Tiny church, all the guests on Tyler's side. When he kissed me, his mouth tasted like gas station taquitos. I waitressed, stocked shelves at the grocery store part-time, and struggled to make ends meet. But that cramped apartment beat the hell out of my childhood home. Days melted into months, then years. Those first years weren't terrible, just dull. We mostly stayed out of each other's way, focused on surviving. Tyler drank hard, just like my father. His party days never ended. Most nights, he'd come home wasted, shout a bit, then pass out. I'd clean up whatever he left behind. Things really fell apart when I found out I couldn't have kids. He'd been desperate for a baby. Me, not so much. But when the doctor said it wasn't happening, I felt relief, even if part of me was sad. It was a hidden blessing. To Tyler, it was a curse. He never let me forget it. Called me broken, said marrying me was a mistake, claimed I'd stolen his best years. He started sleeping around with younger women. I said nothing. At least he stopped touching me. In that way, truth is, I once dreamed of having a daughter. If I'd ever gotten out, found a real job, built a better life, I would have run away with her. I'd name her Cassie. It would be her and me against the world. I was naive enough to dream, but I knew, deep down, that having his child would only doom it. I'd never forgive myself. I cried a lot when he wasn't around. Then one day, the tears just stopped. Life felt emptier than ever. Think I'm a coward? I don't care. I couldn't afford a divorce, and sleeping with bruises was better than sleeping on the streets. I still had enough dignity left to choose survival. I had my coping mechanisms, my secret. During the day, I played the part of the obedient wife. Quiet, diligent, efficient. I packed his lunch, brewed strong coffee for his hangovers, cleaned the house like it was sacred, and masked the bruises. My wrists had bite-shaped grooves from stifling screams, so I wore long sleeves. I learned quick. Any noise made things worse. No one suspected a thing. Maybe they just didn't care to look. But at night, I dreamed of vengeance. Graphic, brutal vengeance. I never imagined I had it in me to fantasize like that. But rage builds up. It has to go somewhere. In my dreams, I saw blood arc from his throat, painting the walls. I saw his guts spill like yarn, his ribs snap like twigs. I imagined scraping meat from my teeth. And then I wasn't alone in those dreams. There was something else, something shaped like me, yet a knot. It took time to see it clearly. It had my hair, dirty blonde, stringy and falling out in patches. It had no eyes, no ears, just a gaping mouth like a beast. It moved like a spider, stalking its prey. Felt like me, the real me, part of me I'd buried. And I loved it. It was everything I wished I could be: violent, fearless, powerful. I clung to it. Every night I fed it. And every morning I woke up a little stronger, more peaceful. Someone at work said I was glowing, asked if I was pregnant. I said, "I'm infertile," and smiled. That guy didn't laugh, but I didn't care. Making friends wasn't on the agenda. I was just trying to survive. Still, I felt less alone. I heard a voice I couldn't place, but I understood it. The creature, my creature, thrived on my hate. It gave me power in return. I started to wonder, if I was losing it, would that be so bad? For 2 weeks, Tyler left me alone. He kept his distance, slept elsewhere. The bruises faded, my skin yellowing with healing. Things were calm, for once. Then came the night one of his flings gave him some amphetamine. He stormed in like a rabid dog, wild-eyed and drooling. It was late and I was barely awake. He started yelling nonsense. I tried to calm him, to guide him to bed. He slapped me hard across the face. His eyes were black pits. His breath reeked of gasoline and fury. I half wished I had a lighter. For once, I pushed back. He stumbled and smashed into the mirror on our bedroom door. His arm bled, but he didn't even notice. We both froze. I felt strong briefly, but then he lunged, glass shard in hand. "I'm gonna kill you," he screamed, swiping wildly. I backed up, panicking, tripped on a pillow, and fell. My skull slammed against the nightstand. Everything went black, or so I thought. I don't know how long I was out, but when I came to, I smelled blood. My vision was blurry, my head pounding. I saw movement on the bed. Something pale gripped the frame, long fingers, sharp joints. Then teeth thin and pink like fingers. Blood everywhere. I wasn't dreaming, but it looked just like the dreams. I sat up slowly. Blood pooled beneath me. My head was slick. When I touched the floor, it wasn't wood. It was flesh. The creature was real. Crouched over Tyler, holding him down. He was battered, unconscious, bleeding. It was protecting me. Something stretched from its belly to me. Cord. An umbilical cord. I touched the back of my head, right where I hit it. The other end was lodged there. The creature had been growing inside me, fed by years of hate. My dream child, my revenge made flesh. It mirrored my every move. I raised a hand, it did too. It didn't need eyes. Love is blind, after all. Together, we looked at Tyler. Useless. In the way. A leftover. He had to go. And we made sure he did. Hours later, Tyler was unrecognizable. Quiet. Lifeless. We acted out every fantasy I'd stored away. I made sure he couldn't scream. His vocal cords were the first to go. We left before dawn, starting fresh under a new sky. We filled ourselves with what we could: food, drink, vengeance. By the time anyone found his remains, they'd be sun-bleached bones posed like a failed painting. It was fair. One man's nightmare became a woman's rebirth. It was what I was owed.